All right, here today working on a Kawasaki Prairie 400. We've got the front wheel bearings that we're going to replace today. I'm also going to show you how to replace the brake pads. This is a two-wheel drive model, and so we don't have the drive axles. We also don't have the front differential, and the hubs are similar, if not exactly the same, and I'm just going to show you how to replace those bearings here. So first things first, we're going to pull this tire off. 4 17mm lug nuts. Look like that there, and just pull that wheel off. Okay, then we have our brake caliper here. This is a hydraulic brake hose that runs down to this caliper here. We have 2 pads, and the way that I would remove these, I would pull the top cap off at our master cylinder up on the handlebars there. It's the right hand lever, and pull that top cap, 2 screws to pull that, and then take and remove this front caliper here. 12mm bolts here. They're coming in from the back here. I would not remove this banjo bolt here, or you're going to have fluid leak out. You wouldn't need to do that unless you're completely rebuilding this caliper here with the pistons and everything. There are shorter 12mm bolts there, so remove both of these. And at this point, your caliper is going to pop right off of there. Pull it off of your disc. And if you've worn those pads completely down, you might have some damage to your disc there. I would make sure you inspect that. If you put new pads on a caliper and the disc is destroyed, what you're going to do is just wear these brake pads out extremely fast. So now I'm going to pull some of the dirt and debris away from this caliper here. Flip it upside down here so you can see we've got 2 12mm bolts on the back side. You've got to flatten 2 keepers here. So what I do is take a flat screwdriver, get in behind there, or use a small hammer and tap those pins down. Those just hold those 12mm bolts and those pins that run through there in place so they don't work themselves out. Once you pull both of those, you're going to pull those straight out. Okay, once you have them both flattened there, grab your 12mm socket there, put it on those bolts. That'll run those all the way out there, and those pins look like this. You've got one for the other side as well. Remove that pin as well, and then at that point you're able just to take and slide those pads off. There's the pads there. These aren't in terrible shape, they're getting down there, but they are wearing a little uneven, so we may need to do a little bit of work in there to our piston. But for now, just to show you how to get this back together, there's going to be a little bit of a spring-loaded pin in there, so you're going to have to put some pressure up to slide these pins in, and then you want to make sure that you've got your keeper here as well on your bolts before you slide them through there, your pins there. Take and slide those in. Okay, once you get these pins put in there, start at a couple turns. I like to use a shallow socket because when you put your impact on there, take and start spinning them in. If you use a deep well socket, if those pins aren't started completely all the way, you're not going to be able to put any pressure in on these pins, and they need that to go in. So you get them on there like that, and then you can take and fold those pins down, and that would be how you replace the brake pads on the Kawasaki Prairie 400. Now to get to the bearings here, I'm just going to take our caliper, move them aside here. There's a brake hose holder that's behind our shock here that you're not going to be able to see very well. I'm going to take and pull that out of the hose holder there and just set our caliper back behind the entire assembly there so we can continue working on. We've got our would be our axle bolt cover here. It's just a dust cover here, kind of protects this bolt here and this nut as well as the bearing inside of there. And then we've got a cotter pin that runs through here. So I like to grab a pair of side dikes and flatten this out as best as we can. Flatten that out, and then we can just take and I flip my side dikes over then, and then just kind of use it to pry on that pin there to get it the rest of the way out. As soon as we get that out, we can set that aside, and we'll grab our 1 1/16" socket here, and our 1/2" drive. We'll take and spin that. I like to hold this hub here so it doesn't spin. Take and spin that off. We've got a larger washer here along with our nut. Then we can just take and slide our hub off of there. Okay, once we have our hub off of there, we're going to set that aside. Sometimes what you'll have is your bearing race will actually stay on your hub here. And I've shown in several other videos how to remove that race off of the hub here. So I'm not going to do that here because the race didn't stick on there. But we've got our bolt here, and that's got our splines on there for our hub. and then it's got an area here that our seal is going to wear on. So you want to make sure that this is in good condition. I take and clean it up really well before I put it back together. Put a little bit of grease on there just to lubricate things when I'm going together. Now to continue on with our knuckle here, we're going to take and we're going to remove our bottom A-arm off of here. We've got a 14 millimeter bolt and nut running all the way through there with a cotter pin on here. Same thing, flatten that keeper out and then take and pry it up just like that. We'll set that aside because a lot of times we can reuse those. Tie rod up here, same thing. Remove that pin there. 17 millimeter bolt for our tie rod there. If the tie rod spins with the nut there that you're supposed to be pulling off, you can actually just take a wrench and stick it in there in between the tie rod end there and the knuckle, and that'll give you a spot there to put a wrench on there to hold it. That wasn't the case here. I'm going to set that nut on the other side. This is a lock nut, so you don't have to worry about Loctiting those going back together. And we've got a 14 millimeter bolt on the bottom there. Same thing, if that bolt spins in there when you're removing the nut, just take and put a 14 millimeter wrench on the other side there. Sometimes because of the pressure of this A-arm, a lot of times these are a little bit of a challenge to remove these bolts. So you can take a rubber mallet here and just tap on this bolt, slide that out, and you're all set there. Now we'll grab a 17 millimeter and do the top here and remove the cotter pin out of there before you do that. Okay, we'll go ahead and remove this bolt here. All right, next we're gonna remove this tie rod here. Grab a smaller bar here, put it in between the knuckle and the tie rod, and then you can put pressure up. Sometimes you gotta take and tap on the knuckle a little bit. Doesn't take much, it doesn't take much force to come down, but a lot of times that will just allow you to pry that off of there. Now you can take a larger crowbar here, stick it in between the A-arm here, pry down, and that'll allow that A-arm to pop out of that knuckle there. Now we'll take our knuckle, just tap on our knuckle. Because we remove this 17 millimeter bolt up here, we're gonna be able to slide that knuckle out. Now we can take and remove our seals here. There's a seal here, the outer seal, and then we've got an inner seal here, and we've got one bearing. So everything's gonna come out this direction, so it comes out to the outside, but you're gonna take that seal off there, you're gonna tap that bearing out, then you're gonna tap that other seal out, obviously still going this direction, and then you're gonna slide that seal with the lip in first in this direction, slide that bearing in, then slide this outer seal. This outer seal should be flush with the knuckle here. Then you're just gonna put everything back in reverse order. Make sure you have this direction going the right way. There's a little divot here that this bolt slides through on the knuckle. Slide that in. You can put the tie rod in. You can then put the lower A-arm in. Put the hub on there with our bolt running through there. Torque that down. Make sure pins are in every bolt there going through the nuts there. And then you can put the caliper on. And I've showed you how to replace those brake pads. And then you can go ahead and put the wheel on and snug everything up. That is front wheel bearings on the Kawasaki Prairie 400. This is a two-wheel drive model. If you guys have questions, make sure you follow my account. Make sure you subscribe to my Patreon account. Support me continuing to upload these videos. It takes a substantial amount of time to do this, and then the resources for tools and stuff like that. So make sure you support that Patreon account. I appreciate you guys watching. If you've got questions, make sure and leave those below. Again, if this video has been helpful, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching.